Hey everybody, long time. I haven't done one of these in a very long time, um, but I felt led to do one today. I want to talk about the process. There's so many processes, so many things that could be quicker, so many things that could be easier, but God lets them happen in the process. The substance of what you have at the end of a thing is all dependent on the process. Take for instance a baby. What happens to a mother and a child during a pregnancy has a very big impact on how the child comes out. The process, what you have at the end of secondary school, college, or university isn't determined by how you came in, but what happened during the process. So many of us are at this moment in time going through a process. We're going through a phase, we're going through a trial, we're going through a season, whatever you want to call it. All of these are processes. And if we look at James 1, we know that these things are there so that his work can be done in us, so that his work can be perfected in us. God showed me a perfect example in Exodus with Moses. If we look at Exodus 33, God is fed up with the Israelites, and he's like, you stick with people. I'm going to send you to the promised land. I'm not going with you, because if I do, I'll deal with all of you. And Moses says, no, if you're not going to go with us, let's stay here. Moses is like, no, Lord, if your presence isn't going to go with us, then, we will stay here. Now, the other Israelites didn't necessarily share the same heart, but we're talking about Moses' process, not theirs. And Moses afterwards in the conversation with God said, let me see your glory. Let me see your face. Moses asked to see God face to face. He asked to see more of God. And when you look at Exodus 3, this same Moses was the same guy who put his face on the ground and hid away from God, because like when God came as a burning bush, when the Spirit of God was in a burning bush, and God spoke to him through the burning bush, he had hidden his face away because he was afraid. Now this guy went from being afraid in chapter 3 to like literally saying, God, no, I want to know you, man. I want to know you more. I want to see more of you in chapter 33. And as I'm reading it, I'm realizing that him and the Israelites were going through a process. Now, they were in the same place as Moses. They had the opportunity to commune with God as Moses, but they were scared the whole time. And I found it interesting that these guys they had access to all of the physical satisfactions you could get. Food, strength, like they were fine. They didn't work. They didn't need to work. Things were provided for them all the time. Manna came from heaven. But still they weren't satisfied. They weren't happy. They weren't joyous. And Moses clearly knew something. He clearly knew more than they knew. Because when God said, okay, I'll give you the promised land, this is what it was all about. The promised land, the land flowing with milk and honey. This is it, guys. But God said he won't go with them. And Moses said, no. If you're not going, we don't want to go. And it really struck me and made me realize that Moses knew something. Moses knew something that most people still don't know today. Moses knew something that I'm learning, and I'm coming to the realization of that. We are truly only satisfied in Christ. And most of the processes that we are going through is to bring us to that understanding. Not saying that we can't delight in other things and we can't, enjoy other things in life. but our source of joy should be him. When I look at David and I read some of his Psalms and I hear some of the things that he says, and I'm just like, dude, you what? Like he said, I wake up and I'm satisfied in your likeness. Like, how many of us have ever woken up and just been happy that he's God? We don't need anything. We're just glad that God is God. We're satisfied. I can't sit here and tell you that that's me. By the grace of God, he's bringing me to such a place. And the process he's using is the process of blindness. You're probably thinking, what on earth am I talking about? He's stripping all forms of control from me. All the logical things that I'm doing in my life to get the things that I should get, all the logical steps I'm taking, all the steps that I'm taking to get the things I should get, to get the things that I think would make me happy, are not working. He's put me in situations where I'm realizing that if I don't pray, I won't survive. Making me realize not that I can't smile at anything else, but only he will truly satisfy. It's interesting because at the beginning of this year, I prayed, my prayer from the beginning of this year was, Lord, teach me how to fear you. I looked at people like David, I looked at people like Abraham, who carried his son, he was about to sacrifice his son to God, and he was about to give him up. Like, you know, Joseph ran from Potiphar's wife. Whenever I read that story before, I used to think to myself, what? If that was me, I'd probably move to Potiphar's wife. I'd probably be the one to sort of make the suggestions to her on the sly, like, yo, PW. But Joseph said, how can I sin against my, how can I sin against my God? And when I think about it, it's like, why was he saying that? I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand how all these men of God were just so diligent. So I prayed, Lord, teach me how to fear you. And control is a big thing for me. I've always been in control. I've always known how to do things. I've always, most of the stuff I do in my life and most of the stuff that I do with business and so on and so forth, I've learned how to do by myself. So I don't rely on people. I always maintain control. But in the last couple of months, God has seen it fit to remove that from me. In all aspects, in all areas. It's like, if anything will work, I must seek him about it. And it started off as a thing of confusion. Look, I don't know what's going on. But now I'm realizing, I'm now becoming comfortable in the idea of just me and him. The idea of just me and him, me and him, me and him. Not in a selfish way. Not in a, a selfish way. That's not the word I put. But in a devoted, holy, Christ-like way. To look at Christ, the author and finisher, and to see how much he went to see how much time he spent with God. It says that he rose while it was still dark to a desolated place to pray. And it's like, there was something about being with God alone. David spoke about it. Moses showed the desire to do it. Jesus did it. That made me realize that there's something there that I'm not realizing. There's something there that I'm missing. And I talked to my other brothers, and who realized that they were putting their joy in all these other things that couldn't last, and they've all come to the realization that, you know what, until I am satisfied in Christ, I will be hungry forever, no matter what I get, no matter what job I get, no matter what business I build, no matter what woman I marry. I'm always going to want more and more and more. It says in Psalms that he satisfies the hungry soul with good things. So now it's like prayer has changed. By all means, I still ask for God to help me here and there with whatever I need help with, but the major bulk of the prayer is allow your spirit to make me love you more, to make me fear you more. Show yourself to me more so that I can love you more. Because when I think about it, if I try and love God on my own, it doesn't work. I've been trying to do that for so long, trying to develop in His love for so long. But in this place, in this process, I am understanding more and more about how majestic He is and how amazing He is. So now, by the grace of God, I understand exactly what Joseph was doing. And now I believe I will do the same. With a thing like Abraham, I believe the fact that I'm having to let go of control of so many things in my life, I am doing the same. Because Abraham had to trust that God was gonna provide. When Isaac asked him, "Wagwan," he said, "God will provide." Yet he could see no provision. He clearly had an understanding of who God was to the point where he could trust God so much. But so many of us, including myself, we don't realize who God is. We forget, maybe that's what it is. Maybe we keep forgetting. Maybe our understanding is flawed. But I'm coming to more and more of an understanding of who He is, and that as long as He's within me, and as long as I feed off Him, and as long as I draw from Him, I draw my strength from His Spirit, I draw my joy from His Spirit, then all these trials would only make me smile. Then all these things I go through and I see would only make me smile. See, in Hebrews 12, I believe it was in Hebrews 12, where it says, I'm trying to remember what it says now. Basically, that Christ, for the glory set before Him, Christ endured the suffering. Because Christ found His joy in doing His Father's will, and what His Father was doing, and what His Father was bringing to completion at the end of it, so He can endure what was going on during the process. Because every single process we go through is for God's glory. Even when He destroys, it's to build. He only destroys if what He's destroying doesn't need to be there or shouldn't be there. He doesn't destroy for just, if God is breaking something down in your life, if God is removing something from your life, if God is stripping things away from your life, it's because He needs you to be satisfied in Him. Not because He's greedy, but that's because He knows that's the only way you'd be strong enough to face life. He knows that's the only way you'll be able to find true joy. God doesn't want us to be broken by every single situation that comes across our way, across our path. For every person that says a bad word to you, He doesn't want us to just crumble and fall to pieces. But the only way we can stand all these things is if we have true joy in Him. There's a concept that I have about pain and hurt, and I believe they're two different things. I believe pain is a momentary displeasure at a particular thing or situation. Hurt is a lasting uncomfort and displeasure at a particular thing. What I mean by that, if somebody walked down the street and barged you, the hurt would be the connection they had with your shoulder. The pain, would be the connection they had with your shoulder. If they said, "Sorry, I didn't mean to," you'd kind of forget about it. The pain will go, you don't remember it. But if they kissed their teeth and said, "Nonsense, you monkey," and walked away, hurt will be the lasting feeling that you have towards that person, making you think, why did they do that? Why would you do that? That's rude. And I believe that when you are satisfied in Christ, you might be hurt. You might get pain, but you won't be hurt. If someone does something to you, it might bother you, it might upset you, you'll feel it. Christ felt the nails, but he was able to enjoy the suffering because of the glory set before him. Because his joy wasn't found in what he was doing like on earth, as in with people, like talking to people. So if people didn't talk to him, he didn't crumble. His joy was in his Father's will and his Father's purpose, and the end result, the work that he knew he was doing for his Father. His joy was in God. And we need to find our joy in the same place. Enjoy the process. Just give yourself time in prayer. Enjoy the process.